Okay.
Going
I'll
live.
refresh the page.
All right.
We should be live.
We're live, everyone.
Please be live.
Perfect. We're live.
We're
All
live.
right. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Welcome to our very first joint virtual panel between Myridian and Meta Nutrition. My name is Melanie Lynn, and I am the founder of Myridian. Today, we are so excited to be joined by 3 different wellness experts. And our panel today will cover topics ranging from nutrition, integrative medicine, and workplace wellness. So thank you again for being here. And thank you so much to our experts for being here. And just a quick intro on me. Again, my name is Melanie and founder of Myridian. Myridian, we produce wellness devices that can be integrated in multiple settings. And now I will pass it over to my co-host from Meta Nutrition, who will introduce themselves briefly and let you know about the process of how today's panel will work.
Hey, y'all. We are Meta Nutrition. We created a platform that tells you exactly what and how much to eat. And we're trying to give people the best nutritional advice through a smart diet generator. And Ranier here, he helps us out with all the advice. He gives us a lot of suggestions for how to improve the platform and just offer you all the best possible experience. You want to add something?
Austin? That's about it on that end, but I'm Austin. I'm the co-founder and CBDO of Meta Nutrition. 9-year vegetarian, so it's a personal product to me. Near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Perfect.
So Melanie, if you had anything to add to that, then either we do that or we can jump straight into the first panel.
Yeah, no, just basically the main structure is, again, we will have 3 of our experts. Each of them will present. And then after they present, we will open a Q&A. So feel free, as you're in the audience now, feel free to start popping questions in the chat as they're presenting. And with timing at the end of each presenter, we'll take some questions from you guys. Otherwise, we can start with our very first panelist.
All right.
Ranier?
Awesome. Okay. Then Ranier, you want to take it from here?
Yeah. Let me go ahead and pop in my
cool
PowerPoint slide here. Okay. So good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Ranier Castillo. And today we wanted to just revolve around, since I'm the nutrition expert, by the way. So we wanted to basically revolve wellness around how everyone's dealing with stress, especially nowadays where COVID's happening. I thought it would be a great time to talk about mindful eating. Mindful eating, we'll go ahead and discuss it, but it's a great way to reduce stress, especially if those who are using food as a way of coping around this time of during the pandemic. So a little bit about me. My pronouns are he, him, his. I do have a bachelor's in kinesiology with an emphasis in nutrition and wellness. Much of my time there, I did study the effects of fitness with cognition and mental health. Which allowed me to also be certified as a personal trainer under the American College of Sports Medicine. And I also have a master's degree in nutrition and longevity in the school at USC School of Gerontology, where I focused a lot of my work on sports nutrition, eating disorders, pediatric and adolescent health. And I am a certified registered dietitian nutritionist. So mindful eating is basically those who, if you are one of these folks here where you're a stress eater, you're either underweight or overweight, you're a busy worker, you're one of those like you need to eat on the go, or you can't eat on a table, you always have to get something wrapped, or driving. If you feel like you've tried it all, maybe this is great for you. Also, if you have some sort of eating disorder, some sort of poor body image, these are great techniques we use for folks with eating disorders when we counsel patients. Or if you just have an unhealthy relationship with food, like you're one of those people that are just having such a hard time understanding portions and understanding like what should I be eating, how many meals should I be eating. So mindful eating is a great way for those people who can be experiencing these types of issues. And so I'll show some of the scientific scientific evidence does show that mindful eating actually does work. So they are actually in a lot of studies. So this isn't just like a fad diet. This has actually been studied and it's proven pretty effective. So for some examples, it's worked in different populations, such as adolescents, any age, like even geriatric populations, to show that mindful eating does help. It can help lower weight without having to even restrict food, so you can still eat the foods that you love, and that way you don't have to binge if you're on a restrictive diet, and it actually shows that there's a lot of benefits in your physiological health as well, such as this study by Dylan et al. That found that they actually reduced inflammation for those who do mindful eating. But overall, really great things here to think about if you feel like you can try mindful eating. So I want to compare it to the traditional approach to eating, where a lot of people, when they're trying to lose weight, trying to be more healthier, they go into the diet culture. And the diet culture, a lot of it, especially nowadays, a lot of people go into keto, fasting, paleo, which is not wrong. Sometimes it works for people, but for those who are struggling with restricting food, it could be very problematic. So it definitely depends on who you are. So just like if you ever tried keto, fasting, or even paleo, maybe you can even try this. But sometimes it doesn't work for everybody. What happens when you go into a diet with some people is that it makes you not ignore a lot of the senses you have when you're considered eating. I'm pretty sure everyone has experienced this, where they tell themselves, oh, I can't eat this. I want this so bad, but I can't eat it until Saturday. I can't eat it until my fasting is done in 30 days. When that happens, once they do finally have the food, it can make them be more obsessive or eat too much of the food that they're supposed to restrict. So it can be very problematic for those kind of folks who have those issues. So versus a holistic approach here, the holistic approach shows of mindful eating is more of a whole entire experience versus just focusing on the nutrient and weight loss or anything that they're trying to specifically focus on. You're fully engaged. You're not judging anything. You have to be having an open-mindedness in order to fully appreciate mindful eating. You have to use all your 5 senses, and we'll get into that later. No distractions. So basically, those who are eating while driving, those are kind of things like you don't practice when you're mindful eating. But overall, having this holistic approach allows you to listen to your body. And that allows you to listen to and understand, oh, am I really hungry because I'm hungry, or am I hungry because I'm bored, or hungry because I'm stressed? It allows you to understand what you're actually really going through. And at the end of the day, it encourages you to have a healthy eating pattern and making sure that you are not skipping meals, or you're not performing any unhealthy behaviors. Luckily, a company such as Meta Nutrition, it's really great because, if you're having trouble with that, with having balanced and healthy meals, there's companies such as Meta Nutrition that are really helpful for that. And then, so let's talk about how this first works. There's some things before you even start mindful eating, I do want to let you guys know, this isn't day and night. It's like baby steps, basically. It's like any other diet. It's like you kind of have to ease your way into it. Otherwise, you're not going to get it, and you're just going to give up. But I always tell my clients here, anytime they want to start mindful eating, you always have to have an open mind. You can't have, I always tell them, there's no such thing as junk food. Just food is fine. You always have to, because it's all about how you interact with food. So you have to also remove all distractions. So folks who eat while they're watching TV, folks who do homework or doing some if they're working on office desk, that's not encouraged, as well as making sure that you use all your senses. So for example, I have these list here of all the senses. So this is basically what you're telling yourself, what you're thinking while you're eating your food. So when you get your plate, when you have your food, you have to ask yourself, how does the food look like? Is it colorful? Is this something actually I'm going to finish, or is this something I'm going to have to take it to go, or I'm going to have to like set aside for later? And so you also have to smell the food. Like, how does the food smell like? Does it smell good to you? Does it have any flavor? Does it have the aroma, any spices? You want to tell yourself like, okay, I can smell this, I can smell that. As well as tasting. Once you put it in your mouth, what does it taste like? What kind of salts or peppers or seasonings are you tasting? It's a constant talk to yourself, basically, to make sure that you are trying to really listen to what you're putting in your mouth, which goes to listening. Like, how does the food sound like when you're chewing it? Is it crunchy? Is it soft? Is it a mixture of all the above? And how does it feel in your mouth? Like, does it feel good? Is the texture nice? Is it smooth? Is it crunchy? So these things you constantly have to do when you're doing mindful eating. It sounds a little bit crazy in the beginning, right? Because it sounds like, wait, this is kind of like, it kind of sounds ridiculous. That's why I always say you have an open mind. Like, I promise you it does work, because it allows you to have a full understanding of your body with food. Oops. So here's some strategies I encourage you to try at home. So one, of course, turn off TV or just any distractions in general, especially when you're starting off in the beginning. You want to turn off all distractions to make sure you're listening to all your 5 senses. Do some breathing exercises and meditations when you're opening the fridge or when you're about to choose something on Uber Eats or Grubhub. Really like think about like meditate and be okay, like what is my goal today? Like what am I gonna eat? And am I gonna eat because am I gonna over order or am I gonna over consume? I don't want that. So let me just take in a few breathing exercises, some meditations, any way you can think about before actually starting your meal. And then to wait to eat your food when you're sitting on a table. And then chew thoroughly. So chewing thoroughly, I think a lot of people do that, where you just have like 2 chews and you swallow right away. I think I'm sometimes guilty of that, but to make sure you're chewing thoroughly, and the way you can make sure you're chewing thoroughly is, like I said before, talking to yourself, asking yourself these questions like, what does it taste like? What does it texture taste like? That way you can allow yourself to be more thorough when you're chewing. And then after each bite, if you're having like if it's a sandwich, you can put the food down. If you have utensils, put the utensil down. That way it allows you to think about what you just put in your mouth, think about what you just eaten. And then after each meal, also talk about like how good it was. Reflect on like how you thought the meal was. That way you can understand like, okay, it was really good. Actually, I think I want to either be full, I think I'm done eating this, or I think I want more, which is totally okay as well. So I always encourage after each meal, after you finish your plate, to wait 20 minutes after you eat, because there's some sensors in your body that tells you, it tells you when you're full. It takes about 20 minutes for your body to tell your brain that, okay, we're gonna stop eating, I'm full. It can take up to that time. So these are some strategies you can try at home in order to make sure that you're practicing mindful eating. So the take-home message is here that mindful eating is a holistic approach. It's used for weight loss, but I really encourage it for those, especially in this time of this pandemic, and we're using a lot of food to cope with our meals, to use it as a way to reduce the stress and making sure that you're fully aware of what you're consuming, and that you're consuming because you're hungry and not because of any stressful situations. It will help improve your relationships with food. It's not a cure at all. I'm not saying it's going to cure obesity. It's not going to cure any sort of diseases, but it's a great start. Like it's a great way to have like I said before, a better relationship with your food. And at the end of the day, only you can tell yourself what's good and bad for you. So everybody's going to be different when they're mindful eating. So all even the different types of food you eat, it's going to react differently to other people in your body. So really take the time to understand who you are and what your body is like every time you eat. So mindful eating will definitely help with that. Here are some just more references. You can snapshot it or anything like that. But I think I am done there. I think I'll be now working on Q&A if anyone has any questions.
All right, let's see if somebody posts anything. Otherwise, we have a lot of questions for you, or at least I do. Okay. Well, okay. Yes. Well, while they pop up. So, so while you were presenting, I had my dad in mind because he's like a perfect example of somebody that doesn't indulge in mindful eating, right? So, like, my question is, so if you have a person that's like, you know, their habit is really just like snacking, and like the first thing that they do is like, okay, if I feel like a little bored, then I'll just open the fridge and just like keep on snacking. So like, what would you say is the easiest way to like get started with this, coming from like that kind of habit background where you see food as like, okay, like, you know, snack time or something similar?
Yeah, so if like someone's using snacks as a way to pass the time, you're saying?
Either that or like just like when you're like slightly like, I don't know, like he watches TV like, you know, at night, and then the first thing that he goes to, it's like, I don't know, I'm gonna get some fruits because I need to, it's like a habit of like eating something while you're watching TV, right? So like, how would you say like it's the easiest way for somebody like him to just start like mindful eating?
Yeah, I am a firm believer in baby steps. I believe even the smallest steps is a great way to get to the end goal. If it's someone who's like really you feel like it's difficult, we're really going to try the really small steps. So like something I would try to do is you know, if he has a snack, if he has like a bag of chips, you know, we would work on those bag of chips, and he can like talk to himself while he's eating those bag of chips. Or if since he watches TV at night or anything like that, maybe something in the morning when he's making coffee or when he's getting breakfast. So I would just choose like one snack or one meal throughout the day, and then just work on that from there. Eventually we want to allow them to do like any type of meals or snacks that they eat, even if they're in a restaurant. Like, it's one of those things where we can work on. But if it's going to be really small, then I would suggest like something like a snack in the beginning, and then work our way from there.
Cool. Do we have any?
Okay. Yeah, so just as a reminder too, when we first opened up the stream for anyone watching right now, the chat might not have been enabled. So if you refresh the link, the chat should be enabled now, just because we had a couple people mention that they couldn't post their questions. So just as a reminder.
Yep. Let's see. Any question coming up?
Not for now. So.
Okay. Yeah. I have one more. Okay. So, is there any, like, what would you recommend for somebody that's getting started, and like, especially in a family settings where like, you know, you might have kids and they don't really care about dieting and they just eat whatever they want, right? So like, it's in a settings where it's like very difficult for a person to just start like, you know, a new diet regime just because you're exposed to so many like different foods like that you see like right in front of your face. So like, what would you suggest in that situation? Like, or is there like any group that they could like turn to for like support or anything to just start the journey?
Yeah, there's actually there's plenty of actually accounts, especially since the pandemic happened. There's actually a lot of online virtual meal supports that have been happening. I know one specifically. I don't know if anyone else wants to mention if they know any others, but if there's an Instagram account called COVID-19 Eating Support, and they do like every hour they have like live streams where you have like therapists, dietitians, like social workers. There are people who specialize in meal supports. They're eating on the live with you, because normally they would work with patients in person because of this whole pandemic thing. They've moved virtual, and I think there's a person every hour where you can actually work with them, and they'll eat with you, and they're all trained in mindful eating as well. So that's a great thing to do if you want to do virtual. If you're in a family base, it's actually, I would recommend it. That's going to be really difficult, but if you're working with children, of course, we want to be careful with working with children, not make them obsessed about diet culture, because I think with kids, they're not crazy for that kind of thing yet. So we want to make sure that we can at least, it's a great thing to at least just sit down and have a meal with them. So family meals are great. They've actually shown, many studies have shown that kids actually have a lower risk of obesity when they grow up if they eat with their families. And so I assume the same with the parents as well. So if they eat in a structured family meal, that will actually help as well, versus if there was, because eating with people, I don't think eating with people is a distraction per se. It's great to be upfront with the family or with the other people you're eating with and tell them, like, hey, I'm trying this thing. And if the worst they can do is say, no, I don't want to try it with you, but it'll be great if the other people can try it with them as well.
Cool. All right, then thank you, Ranier, so much. Thank you. Very, very interesting and very, very useful. So I think we'll start trying it out too.
Yes.
Since we cook all of our meals at home. All right, cool. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Ranier. And again, if there's any last minute questions, feel free to submit them. And at the end of the event, if there's time permitting, we'll take them. But for now, we will move forward to our next expert, Dr.Karina Klimtchuk. And she is an integrative physician and the founder of Kai Wellness Center in Santa Monica. So feel free to take it away. Thank you for being here, Dr. Karina.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And thanks, Ranier, for kicking that off. That was a really, really great presentation, such an important topic. Yeah, that was great. I'm going to be talking to you guys about sleep, and that's a huge, gigantic topic that we'll cover a little bit of in these next 10 minutes. And I just want to say, well, you know what? First, let me do the screen share so you can see my little presentation to help keep us on track. Does that look good? Yeah, okay.
That's great.
All right. So myself, I'm Dr. Karina Klimtchuk. I'm an integrative physician. I specialize, I'm a general practitioner, but I combine modalities. So functional medicine, Chinese medicine, and my background is in yoga therapy and psychology and Reiki. And I want to talk to you guys about the vital role of sleep in immune and mental health, because that's something I'm seeing a lot of problems with, especially now. Especially now, people are coming in complaining of insomnia. So I just want you to contemplate one little thing to start. Did you know that humans are the only living creatures who actually willfully deprive themselves of sleep? We have this amazing ability to override our body's natural rhythms, and other animals don't do that. They basically go with the sleep and wake cycles and the cycles of the sun. And I want you to just take a moment and take inventory of your sleep and think about things like, do you go to bed at a certain time or does it fluctuate? And do you fall asleep easily, wake up during the night? Do you wake up feeling rested? Do you have dreams? And just take a quick inventory, and also think about and acknowledge any beliefs that you have about sleep, how sleep should be, what you've come to know about sleep, and just bookmark it. I'm going to present a little bit of information about sleep, and then we'll get into what can be done to improve sleep quality. And while I'm presenting this, just, hold your questions, but think about how this affects you. And also, I want you to think about, what's the last time that you really prioritized your sleep or made that something that's really, really, really an important thing in your life. So moving into a little bit about what is sleep, what does it do for us? So circadian rhythm, you might have heard this term. This is basically the cycling of the body with the sun. We're awake when natural light is abundant, and then there's signaling and all kinds of chemical reactions that happen inside of us that allow us to enter sleep when the sun goes down. And circadian rhythm is actually very essential to our health. It underlays and regulates our physical, mental, and emotional body processes. And it's pretty foundational for emotional, physical, and mental health. The cortisol melatonin axis, so you guys might have heard of these are hormones, and cortisol is supposed to go way up in the morning. That's what gives us energy, and then it slowly wanes throughout the day, and as it wanes, it has an inverse relationship with melatonin, which actually gets higher and higher, and it allows us to enter a nice deep sleep. Now, the role of melatonin is actually neuroprotective, which means the hormone itself has certain qualities that protect the brain, keep us young, keep us focused, help us avoid things like early onset dementia, stuff like that. And if cortisol is way too high, and some people have this thing where they get really energetic right before bedtime, or there's like a second wind and you want to get all kinds of work done and things accomplished, well, that actually taps into the melatonin reserves, and you don't get the protection and the restorative qualities of the sleep for the brain. And this is something that really is closely connected with this next point here, which is the HPA axis. HPA simply stands for hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal. And those are glands in the body. And they're basically like communication supertowers in the body. They regulate the stress response. And the hypothalamus and pituitary are in the brain. They respond to stimulation, to outside input. So if you're sitting under a lot of artificial light, there's a certain response that happens, versus if you're out in natural light, and then winding down in the evening with either candlelight or going into darkness. That informs the body it's time to sleep, time to produce these other sleep chemicals. And if that's compromised, then all kinds of health problems can actually start to develop. This leads to that third gland, which is the adrenal. And you guys may have heard of this term, adrenal fatigue. So when there's too much signaling going on, when there's too much stimulation to respond to, too much stress in the body, then there's a signal that goes from the hypothalamus to the pituitary down to the adrenals that say, hey, produce stress hormones, produce cortisol, produce more epinephrine, get up, get into, go into action, fight or flight. And if that system is overactive and going way too much and overdriving all day long, then of course, that is one of the biggest things that can impede being able to fall asleep readily and stay asleep. It also takes a toll on the adrenal glands themselves, and it can take a toll on the thyroid. I mentioned the thyroid here. The thyroid is a gland that is just part of the glandular system, and it has something to do with every single organ and every single cell in the body. So it's important to keep it healthy. So the effects on mental health. So sleep is also very restorative for our mental and emotional health. And all of this that I'm saying, I just want to mention, it's backed up by so many tens of thousands of research studies. This is all evidence-based information. You're welcome to quote me on this stuff and follow up about it afterwards as well. I'm happy to provide resources. There are quite a few. The thing that's kind of noted in the research and in clinical experience is that whenever somebody's sleep is low, their anxiety tends to be higher. And the inverse is also true. Somebody who struggles more with anxiety tends to have really difficult time sleeping, and especially getting that good quality deep sleep. Sleep also has an effect on depression. It's a little bit different. People who tend to be more depressed tend to sleep a lot more. And in part, that can be because the body's craving that repairing, restorative nighttime to help process the day, to just basically help protect the brain and to restore some of that mental and emotional resiliency. And the last point here, immune health. A lot of research studies also showing sleep's effects on the immune health. During the night, our bodies can produce healthy levels of cells called cytokines. And these guys have a huge role to play in fighting off infection and generally keeping our systems healthy. So that's another point on that. In Eastern, so that's kind of the Western medical portion. Eastern thought or Chinese medicine looks at sleep and pretty much everything in terms of the yin and yang cycles. And what's important to know about these is that they need to be kept harmonized and in balanced. So yang time is daytime. Everything is going on, it's bright, it's sunny, there's activity. And yin time is nighttime. And there's this sort of harmonic rhythm that they keep each other in balance with. And it closely mirrors what goes on with the cortisol and melatonin fluctuations. The organ meridian clock, which you see pictured over here on the right, basically is a simple Chinese medical tool that says every couple of hours, a different organ's energy in the body is at the highest, at the strongest. So there's a little bit of correspondence there with the circadian rhythm. There's an importance to live in accordance with the cycles of nature and with the cycles of the meridian energy or chi flow, because the things that we do, and I'll get into this later when we talk about what can be done to ensure better sleep, the things that we do and kind of how we structure our day can have a huge bearing on whether or not we're able to easily get to sleep and stay asleep at night. And the last point is Shen. So Shen is our ability to perceive, interact, and communicate with the world. It's a Chinese medical term. It basically resides in the heart, according to that model. And when the heart is at peace and we're able to enter a deep sound sleep, the Shen is what helps us get there, and it helps us to stay asleep. And there are some other, Chinese medicine is just such an incredibly complex system, but that's just the quick point I'll make about that there. Really briefly, what happens when we don't get enough sleep or enough good quality sleep? There's different types of sleep. We want the deep sleep. More of the deep sleep tends to be restorative. Mental and emotional well-being is affected. Immune function, it can be dysregulated, and it can lead to hyperactivity or overinflammation during the day as the body's trying to make up for the lost time and the lack of the restoration and the repair that's supposed to be happening at night. Like DNA and cells get repaired during the sleep time. So if that's compromised, then there's going to be effects also on mitochondrial function, which is the energy production cells in the body. And it causes oxidative stress, which can lead to DNA damage, which can actually lead to premature aging. And one of the other things that's been really heavily researched is the effect on sleep on hormone cycles. So this is really important for women, especially because our hormones fluctuate a lot more than the hormones of men. And insulin, being a hormone, is also affected. So people who don't get really good sleep or do shift work tend to have a much higher incidence of type 2 diabetes and other issues, other diseases. So what do we do about it? Well, there's a whole lot of research and a whole lot of clinical experience that I'm happy to share with you about what really works. And oftentimes it's got to be customized. It can be different things for different people, especially in the Chinese medical system. There are different patterns that underlay the same symptoms. So you and I might both have trouble getting to sleep, or we might both be waking up at 3 a.m, which is incidentally liver time on the meridian clock, which is when a lot of the stress of the day comes up. You ever wake up at that time and it's like all this stuff that happened, all these things I have to do. Yeah, there's something, the psyche's churning and trying to process. So the treatment or the intervention or the support looks a little bit different for different people, but here are some basic ideas. So the first thing I like to recommend is go back to the exercise I asked you to do in the beginning of this presentation, and consider how much do you actually prioritize your sleep? And see if you can really prioritize it if you're struggling with it, and if this is something you want to undertake as one of your health goals. Really make a promise and a commitment to yourself to make this time in the day for it, because it's a form of self-care, and a form of self-care is self-love, and that's essential for health on all levels: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. To help regulate the circadian rhythm, consider spending as much time as you can around natural light in the middle of the day, and winding down in the evening. Get a pair of blue blocker glasses. Now, this is something that's such a common issue. Looking at screens, looking at devices, is backlit with blue light. Yes, these things actually do work. They actually block the blue light to a significant extent, such that the brain registers, oh, it's nighttime. The blue light stimulates the middle of the day. It shouldn't be the middle of the day at 10 p.m. So you want to get your brain rhythms to understand that it's nighttime, so that the melatonin production can increase, cortisol levels can drop, and you can enter sleep easier and stay asleep longer and go into a deeper sleep. And part of that requires establishing a wind down routine. So allow yourself maybe a couple of hours before bed. And, part of that could maybe be like a consistent bedtime at night. Chinese medicine recommends no later than 11 p.m. based on the meridian clock. And allow those last few hours to be dedicated to winding down, which means maybe some light stretching, maybe like a nice bath with candles and lavender oils or something like that. Some light reading, light exercise like yoga, qigong, and actually biofeedback therapy I haven't mentioned here, just because these things have been so well researched to show that they have a really positive effect on sleep. The sleeping environment is incredibly important. Brains are wired to respond to outside stimulus. So if there's any light coming into the room, that may be an inadvertent signal to your brain to stimulate the awake hormones and the awake wavelengths. And one great remedy against that is like either the light canceling curtains on your windows, or just sleep with an eye cover. Maybe earplugs to minimize sounds. And I always recommend unplugging devices, unplugging as much as you can in your room, unplug routers, because even though it's a really, really subtle effect, the wavelengths that travel through the air from all the electronics, and especially the Wi-Fi internet, and especially now that it's 5G, are disruptive to the human body on a subtle level, but over time it accumulates. Nutrition is really important. So there are certain foods, first of all, try not to eat 3 hours before bedtime. That's important, especially not heavy meals. Avoiding caffeine, avoiding alcohol, eating more yin nourishing foods, which are cooling, which tend to be like either green or pale or white in color, cauliflower, for example, oysters, things like that, versus yang foods, which are a little bit more robust, spicy, warm, anything that's really hot, really pungent, avoiding that. There are certain herbs and supplements. In fact, there are lots and lots and lots, and I'll just mention a few here for the purposes of our presentation. Try something like L-theanine, magnesium glycinate, chamomile, valerian, skullcap, lavender oil. And again, there are just lots and lots of other ones that can better be customized to address each person's individual unique needs. And the last thing I want to offer as part of today's presentation is this, there's this little document that I created years and years ago, 10 tips for getting consistent restorative sleep. And that can be accessed through my website. I wish I could share it here, but I think the only way that I know how to share it is if you go and visit the website and opt into the newsletter, which comes out quarterly. And then you can get that 10 tips. So thank you so much for having me on and letting me share a little bit with you about sleep, some information, and hopefully you found some useful tips. I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. That was amazing and very well and informative.
Yeah,
We
that's
actually
great.
do, yes, we have a question from someone from the audience. William was asking, are there any health detriments to sleeping 9+ hours consistently, or are there benefits, if any?
So 9 or more hours is in Chinese medicine thought of as a yang deficiency. So in that case, you can actually boost the yang energy. Now, remember, we want to keep them in harmony. So, anything that's going to be too little or too much could be problematic. Not necessarily. For some people, that's what their body needs. And especially if you're going through a period of stress or perhaps fighting off some kind of a sickness or infection. But if that's more of a chronic kind of, lifetime issue, that may be depleting some of your energy that should be more active and reserved for the day. And without getting really biomedical and technical, I can't go much deeper into answering the question, but I would recommend doing more exercise during the day and perhaps eating some of those yang foods, just a little bit more of the spicy, of the pungent. Cinnamon is a great one to kind of boost that yang energy. So you get more benefit from a little bit less sleep, like 7 to 8 hours, 7 to 9 hours is good, but more than 9, that sounds like it could be part of an imbalance.
Great, thank you. And our next question for you is, what are some common risk factors that can lead to sleep disorders? And what can we do to prevent or alleviate some of these factors once we're aware of them?
So often undiagnosed thyroid disorders, also often undiagnosed is sleep apnea. A lot of people, even people who don't necessarily snore or don't present like the typical snoring type of person, could have sleep apnea. And that can be an issue because you're not getting enough oxygen at night, and because you're not breathing well enough, you're actually not entering deep sleep, which is that really quality restorative sleep that's so essential. Other risk factors, oh gosh, and this is just life. For women, like premenstrual, like PMS symptoms can cause sleep disturbance. Perimenopause, there's a significant dip in the yin energy, which is corresponding with estrogen. There's a big dip in estrogen. That can be a big issue. So you asked about prevention, following some of this sleep advice, minding the circadian rhythms and establishing a wind down routine and really ensuring a great supportive sleeping environment are some of the keys for prevention. And that not only helps to get a better sleep, but it also supports the body in healing or recovering from, or not even developing some of those issues that I just talked about.
Perfect, great. And our last question for you is, can I make up for a lack of sleep with power naps?
Kinda. Power naps don't get you into the deep sleep. So while I completely encourage them, and I encourage them in the first part of the day, don't take a power nap like after 3, because then that really creates issues with the cortisol cycle and can make you have a harder time getting to sleep or staying asleep at night. So I recommend power naps. They're very restorative, and they're not quite going to make up for a lack of sleep at night. Sorry.
Perfect. All right. That's great to know. It's good to know. Thank you so much, Dr. Karina. And once again, for our audience, again, if there's any questions that come up later on, feel free to still submit them. If there's time at the end, we'll take them. Otherwise, thank you so much, Dr. Karina.
Thank you. Thank you. You're so
Thank
welcome.
you. Perfect. And then now we will transition. If you could go ahead and stop your share. Perfect. And now I'll be introducing Stephaine Erazo, who is one of Myridian's proud corporate wellness partners, and she is the founder of Prana Wellness. So let's welcome Stephaine, our corporate wellness expert. Thank you for being here. Oh, you're still muted, Steph.
There we go.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie. As Mel said, I'm the founder of Prana Wellness, and I love working with Melanie in Meridian. It's been awesome. And Dr. Karina, we're going to have to talk. I'm in yoga therapy as well. I'm sure that you know Dr. Larry Payne. I'm sure of it. So yeah, I wanted to bring you guys the perspective from wellness for the working minds, wellness in the workplace, whether you're an entrepreneur or you work from home outside of COVID. Wellness in the workplace is really, really important. And I learned this firsthand as a producer at CNN for 7 years. I was in the workplace, but you may guess that it was somewhat of a chaotic, stressful workplace. So I really learned to take wellness to heart and prioritize that in my daily life. I've always been a champion of wellness and into fitness, but I think it really put it into perspective after I had a panic attack at work and I didn't know at all what was going on with my body. It was just sort of like a stressful freak out moment that had never happened to me before. I thought I was having a stroke and I didn't know what to do. And the doctor tested me for all these things. And then at the end was just like, you're just stressed out. I was like, wow. So it was definitely a wake up for me. After I left news, 3 days later, actually, I studied in Rishikesh, India, which is the birthplace of yoga. It was really important to me to go and study Eastern and just the source of yoga. So I spent time studying there. I'm now currently enrolled in yoga therapy school. So I do believe in wellness as a cure, and I really believe that people can heal their own bodies if you're equipped with the knowledge and education to know how to do so. So with Prana Wellness, we go into workplaces and we do yoga, meditation, and breath work for the working mind and teach people how to be well in a corporate mindset and how yoga, meditation, and breathwork practices will help you get through your day, be more productive and more energized, and achieve your goals within the workspace. And also in your personal life, I really believe meditation itself, literally, scientifically, actually opens up a new realm of creativity. It creates more stress. By meditating, you're sort of bringing your stress level down every day. When you're not meditating, your stress level it builds. You have, say, 10, I call them stress points, 10 stress points a day. When you're not meditating, you go into the next day and accumulate a new set of 10 more stress points. So by not reducing them with things like meditation and mindful eating and sleep, you're increasing those stress points. So you bring that into your next day. And I think you're just creating more creative space for yourself through meditation and breath work. Let me see if I can move okay, here. So meditation, the way I like to teach meditation is through BLT. Breathe, listen, and think. And I think that's really important. Anytime you're making a decision, anytime you're in a very stressful period, if you're going into a meeting, if you have a call with your boss and you're unsure about it, or if you're trying to close a client, it can relate to all things in work. Breathe, listen, and think. And the breathing part is very important. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people physically not breathing, and because I'm trained in it, I can tell, and I sometimes go and tap you on the shoulder like you're not breathing, because people, they're so tight. When your shoulders are tense like this and your fists are clasped or you're gripping something really tightly, you're probably not breathing correctly. And also posture has a lot to do with the way you breathe. So try to sit like this for now and just crunch up in your seat, everyone, if you can, and then try to take a really big deep breath. It almost feels stressful to do that. It feels very constricting. Now open up and relax your shoulders down your spine and just have a really proud, tall chest, and then try to take a deep breath in. So it's a huge difference in the way your airways move and your energy. I mean, think about if you just sat like this all day, it's horrible for you. So I think breathing is really important. There's a difference between breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. I'll get to that in the next slide. But breathe, listen, think is the basic meditation technique. If you're beginning in meditation, a really great practice is meditation bells, or chimes as I call them. So pick something, a noise in your life that happens daily. It could be a baby crying, it could be a car door closing, a dog barking. And every time you hear that sound, take a meditation break. So this can be anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes, but it involves breathing, listening, and thinking. So you're going to take 3 deep breaths in through your nose and cleansing breath out through your mouth. And then you're going to listen to your body, check in and say, what am I feeling right now in this moment? What am I thinking? What is my body doing, etc.? And just take sort of a mental and physical inventory of your own body so you can check in that way. And then think about it. Just think, okay, what do I want to do with this energy? Do I want to give this negative thought any more energy? No. Do I want to continue to be productive in my day? Yes. So just make those conscious decisions on how you're going to move through your day by breathing, listening, and thinking. And it really helps, especially if you're just beginning, or if you're one of those people like many that say, I don't have time to meditate 30 minutes a day. I don't have time. Trust me when I tell you that when you meditate, you are actually creating more time in your day. I mean, we all want to have Beyonce hours, as I call them. She, I think, has 72 hours in a day. But you are creating Beyonce hours by meditating, if that makes sense, because you are freeing up more brain space for that extra creativity and that extra productivity. So once you start to make it a habit, then you'll realize, maybe I do have 45 minutes for meditation. That's typically what I spend. And before, it's like, no, I can never carve out 45 minutes for meditation. But if you start small like this, with just breathe, listen, think for short periods of time, you'll start to crave it, and your body will start to react to it in that way. That's meditation. And then for breath work, as I said, there's a difference between breathing in through your nose and then out through your nose and breathing out through your mouth. In yoga, we teach breathing in and out through your nose. It's very calming effect. It helps with your immunity, and it helps bring your stress level down. Think about the last time you were physically active. If you were doing a really hard workout, I like to box, and I also like to hike, both of which are very physically tasking exercises. So if you are climbing up a mountain and you get to the top and you start to do this, I mean, look at my body, look at my shoulders and how much energy I'm exerting. I don't know if anyone here is a swimmer, but if you're swimming and your head is physically moving like this, you're exerting so much energy. Same thing with breathing. So I always tell people, in order to bring that calm across your body, close your mouth. Anytime you're doing any really hard physical workout, you'll see the difference. If you can breathe in and out through your nose, you'll physically feel the difference. The time that I recommend a cleansing breath, which is out through your mouth, is if you really need to let go of toxic energy. So in yoga, when I'm teaching, I will cue a cleansing release, and this really helps. If you're sitting at your desk and just life is getting the best of you and you're just having a stressful work day, just put your hands down at the side of you, roll your shoulders back, and just take a big inhale. Exhale out your mouth. You can do that 1 to 3 times, and it's cleansing. It's letting out all the toxic energy that you've built up. But otherwise, in and out through your mouth really reduces that stress level. Cleansing out of your mouth is really just about releasing toxins. So we're going to try these 3 breaths quickly. 16 counts to calm is something that you can use in like the most stressful situation. If you are like at your wit's end, if you are about to yell at someone in the workplace or your boss or a coworker, if you are just about to lose it, 16 counts to calm is a really great breath. You want to do 4. This is all in and out through your nose. So 4 in through your nose, hold at the top, 4 out through your nose, and then hold at the bottom. So we'll try it together. Just close your eyes and sit up really straight. Relax your shoulders down, and I'll walk you through it. I'll cue you. Inhale through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then just allow your breath to be still. Open your eyes if they're closed. And you can just feel, I like to tell people when you're doing meditation or breath work, whatever it is, try to sit with it for 30 seconds afterwards. A lot of times, so many of my clients after breath work tell me, I feel high, I feel dizzy, I feel lightheaded. And it's completely normal to feel that way. I promise you won't pass out. We're not doing anything crazy, but it's literally your emotions and your feelings that whatever you're experiencing in that moment, it's coming up through your throat. It's kind of being manifest in your body. So if you feel a particular way, whether it's good or bad after your breath work, that's common. It's just your body acknowledging what you're feeling. So just try to sit with it, whether it's good or bad. I mean, you could say, hey, that made me feel really amazing, or hey, that really made me want to cry. And both of those are fine. You just let it come over your body. So that's 16 counts to calm. It just takes your focus away from the stressful moment you're experiencing. And then victorious breath, it's one of my favorite ones to teach, or Ujjayi breath in yoga. The Ujjayi breath is in through your nose and out through the back of your throat. It sounds like a seashell that you blow into and you kind of hear the ocean. It's an oceanic breath through the back of your throat. I also describe it as the Darth Vader breath. So think of, I'll do really awkward demonstrations. So come close, in through your nose and then out. So you're forcing that energy, that breath out through the back of your throat. This is with a closed mouth the whole time. So it's technically in and out through your nose, but you're pushing it out through your throat on the exhale. So victorious breath really helps with anger. It helps with greed. It helps with any unwanted desires. It can control your appetite at times if you practice it regularly. But it's a really great breath. It helped me a lot with road rage and LA traffic. Have to tell you, it helps with that. So we'll do that a few times together. Just take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale, back of your throat. Inhale in. Exhale, back of your throat. One more inhale. Exhale. And then just find that release. Find how it kind of tickles the back of your throat and it makes you feel sort of just calm. I always love that breath. It brings just a calm energy about your entire body. And then the last one I mentioned at the beginning, just the cleansing breath, is always out through your mouth. You're releasing any toxic energy, anything that no longer serves you in that moment. It could be a bad habit or just some negative energy, self-doubt that you'd like to release. Just take an inhale through your nose and then exhale out of your mouth. Now, in all these breaths, you want to maintain your shoulders relaxed and down. I see a lot of people always and fill up like this. You don't want to do that. You want to really relax your shoulders like they're melting down your spine. Someone's pulling them down. So we'll take a few together. Inhale through your nose. Open mouth, exhale. And one point I want to make as well, most people breathe the wrong way. Most people breathe in and suck their stomach in. You want to breathe, and even if you need to put your hand on your belly, breathe and inhale into your palms. So take a big inhale, expand your belly. And then exhale, open mouth, send your navel to spine. So you feel the difference when you're sending your navel to spine on the exhale. This is really cleansing, and most people don't do that. It's actually counterintuitive to breathe that way, but that is the proper way to breathe, and it really helps your immune system, your digestive system. So take a big inhale in, expand your belly. Open mouth, navel to spine. And just practice that every day. Practice these 3 breaths, but really make them a habit. Once you make them a habit, you'll see the difference. You'll see difference in your posture, in the way you eat, even in the way you maintain and deal with your stress. These are really good for workplace balance. And then finally, yoga. Ranier and Dr. Karina touched a lot on both of these. Healing energy. I really believe that you can cultivate your own healing energy. So my business is called Prana Wellness. Prana is Sanskrit for life force and breath and energy. You are the master of your own energy. You know, what you allow into your space in a daily basis just dictates the energy that you're projecting out into the world. So you can have a healing energy, or you can have an energy that will physically make you sick. As Dr. Karina was saying, you can, make yourself sick if you don't have good habits, mindful habits, good nutrition, good sleep. You can make yourself sick. So just being conscious of the healing energy that your body possesses, I believe, is a part of yoga. When people teach yoga, they think, oh, it's just downward dog and warrior two, but it's so much more than that. It's these three things: healing energy, mindful eating, and intentional movement. They all really encompass the art of yoga. And Ranier touched on mindful eating. I think that's really important in a good yoga practice. And it doesn't mean you have to be a vegan or a vegetarian. I am not, actually. And that surprises people sometimes. I mean, I could be. I have moments where I just eat veggies and that's how I'm feeling. But I think mindful eating is really feeding into your body and knowing what your body wants in that moment in time, and listening to yourself. I know Dr. Karina can talk a lot about probably the doshas, the three doshas, pitta, vata, and kapha, energy, and just being mindful of what your body needs, because everyone's body is different. For me, I'm actually tri-dosha, and at night it's not good for me to have cold things at night. But just studying more about what your body needs, what fuels you personally, because I don't think that's the same for everyone. It's really dictated by your environment, your physical and mental history, things like that. So just doing a little more in-depth research in yoga, swasthya, self-study, it really helps with mindful eating. And then intentional movement. Obviously, yoga is all about movement on the surface, the asanas, the poses. So being really intentional. If you are sitting at work for 9 days, they say sitting is the new cigarette. And I really believe that. If you are just, first of all, because your hips are getting tight. And as humans, we hold quite a bit of stress in our hips unknowingly. Most people think that the stress is here. And it is. Probably shoulders and hips are the most common areas, but no one pays attention to hips. So really doing hip opening stretches, putting your feet together, knees apart, maybe pressing down, opening up. But being really quite intentional about your movements on a day-to-day basis, taking a walk once we go back to the workplace, taking a walk around the block. When I was at CNN, sometimes it would just be so stressful, and I would just get up and take a walk 3 times around the block. And when you're walking, that's intentional movement. Just try to notice the birds chirping. Try to notice I'm sitting in front of a window, like the leaves moving, and just try to notice small things. You're creating abundance. You're creating a peaceful energy within your spirit by doing those things. Being intentional about stretching. So it doesn't just involve going to a yoga class, but these 3 things, I think, are the forgotten parts of yoga. Because you can do other intentional movements outside of a yoga class that will help you, especially when you're working. And I like to teach in all my yoga classes, especially for, I'm sure everyone on this call is on their computer a lot. So I teach a lot of wrist exercises. You can just do this. This is a very simple one you can do at your desk. Wrist exercises. You can also do it where you're taking one finger at a time, pulling your finger back, and then grabbing here, here, and here. And then grabbing your thumb and pulling it back. Who thinks to stretch their thumb? No one. So, but these are very important when we're on our computer all day. Here. And your neck. We all text a lot. We all lean forward a lot. So really being mindful. Pretend like someone is grabbing your ears and pulling your ears up like this. So think of having your headspace like this all the time. And your scapula, which is back here, think of having your scapula like pressed against a wall. So that, it sounds a little awkward, but eventually you get used to it. But those types of intentional movements help your breathing. They help your stress level, believe it or not. So I think that is almost it. Yes. Here's how you can get in touch. Prana Wellness, we are doing everything online now. And so further notice, but we are in your workplace still virtually doing classes. Melanie teaches some of the classes. So join us anytime. We do yoga, meditation, breath work, and bootcamp fitness. Melanie teaches some awesome bootcamp classes for us. So definitely join us. And I'd love to answer all of your questions.
Thank you so much, Steph. That was amazing. I'm already doing some of those stretches now. Perfect. We have one question from the audience from Alessandro. Would you recommend meditating after yoga or exercise in general?
Yeah, the only time I say I don't recommend meditation, because I think meditation can be done at all points of the day. I don't recommend it right before sleep, and other people may disagree with me. I think there's specific sleep meditations that you can do. I actually have the Calm app on my phone, and they have sleep stories, which are absolutely amazing. But to do a silent, just sit meditation practice right before bed, kind of drums up a little bit of energy, even though that sounds a little backwards. It creates more creative space. So I wouldn't recommend it right before bed. What I say around the times is do it usually around the same times every day. So I do mine as soon as I wake up in the morning, but it's important to do it after you've sort of brushed your teeth and washed your face and wake up. Don't just roll out of bed and just say, okay, I'm going to meditate, because your eyes are probably still closed. You're not fully alert yet, and you want to be alert during your meditations. And then I do a second meditation as my afternoon pick-me-up, like an afternoon coffee. So instead of drinking coffee, I meditate. I think coffee's awful for you, and I think everyone will agree. But instead of that, in order to energize me, I do like a midday meditation, so around 4 p.m. So it's not too late into the day where it's going to stimulate me, but it's kind of like okay, I need a little more energy to finish out my day. So there's no bad time after working out. It's great. I do it after my yoga class all the time. That's fine. I think it's a great way to calm down from a very physical workout, so that's fine. I just wouldn't do it super close to bedtime unless you're practicing something like yoga nidra, which I love to teach. Yoga nidra literally means yogic sleep, and it is for yogic sleep. It's a state of deep relaxation. So unless you're practicing something like that, I wouldn't do it right before bed.
Great, thank you so much. And our last question, for the sake of time, is what are the benefits of prioritizing wellness in the workplace? And based on your experience, what are trends or issues that you've personally seen from lack of wellness in the workplace?
Sure. Well, I'll answer the second one first. I think some trends with lack of wellness in the workplace is just people needing to take personal leave. I've had friends of mine had to take personal leave from their work because they were just so stressed out. And I think we shouldn't even get to that point. I think all of the things we talked about today are totally preventative. I don't think that many workplaces do a good enough job of being mindful of their employees' well-being and offering things on site. So that's why I wanted to create my business, to offer things literally physically on site, where people don't have to worry about going to the gym afterwards or making it a habit at home, because we know that that's hard. I mean, it's great and everyone should do that as well, but it's harder. It's easier said than done. So a lot of things that I'm seeing just from trying to pitch new clients is that teams will say, oh, we have health risk assessments, we take blood pressure, and we offer like free Starbucks if you do XYZ steps, or they'll do gift cards, or they'll have like a health fair. And that is all great, but it's not helping them actually do things. It's not helping them get better sleep and learn how to meditate and move through yoga poses. So I want to physically do something and encourage people to have something on site that's more accessible, rather than offering these empty incentives, in my opinion, because I think that's where a lot of companies go wrong. I think there's a common trend now with people to just, it's like the hustle mindset, and everyone thinks, oh, if I pull an all-nighter, then I'm like really in the hustle, and I'm like showing myself that I'm great at my job. And it's a horrible mentality to have, that burnout mentality, and that's a really big trend, that burnout is cool, and it's not. Burnout is the opposite of cool. You don't ever want to be burnt out because you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're empty, you're not going to show up the next day in your workplace sharp, and ready to go. So, and go back to the first question quickly.
Oh, yes. Just so now that you've talked about lack of wellness, what are the benefits of wellness in the workplace?
Well, yeah, just I think everything we went over, I think the most important things, it increases your productivity, it increases your creativity. On the corporate side for HR people and benefits, it can increase their employee retention because, I mean, you can save so much money by not having sick employees. I think it's $3,000 a year per employee that you'll save by not having sick employees. They're taking less sick days, they're getting less prescriptions, less doctor's appointments because they're feeling mentally and physically better. And mentally and physically are really tied together. You have to mind both. One can really affect the other. So the employer, I think it's on them to encourage that, because if you as an employer are not creating an environment where your employee feels like, oh, I can take a 30-minute yoga break, or I can sit here and meditate at my desk, then they're going to feel guilty. And it's that burnout mentality again, like I have to keep going, So employers have to really facilitate that for their employees. And I think it's really important. It can lower healthcare costs and increase retention for employers as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And that concludes our first ever panel. Thank you so much again for our 3 panelists and experts for joining us today. Again, we will be sending out this link as well as this video, and this entire panel will be live to both Myridian's YouTube channel as well as Meta Nutrition's channel. And I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but we are accepting donations to BEAM, the Black Emotional Mental Health Collective. So in the link that I sent out to all registered attendees, if you would like to still submit a donation, we are still accepting them. But otherwise, we hope we will do this again. Please let us know any feedback. We'll also be sending out an email so that we can follow up with those of you who are able to join us this morning. But otherwise, thank you so much. Meta Nutrition, do you have anything else to add before we conclude our first panel?
Yeah, if you guys can, if you guys want to see the live later, we'll be posting it on our social media pages. And you can also find it back on our YouTube channel or on Myridian's pages. And yeah, thank you for being with us. It was great. It was really fun. And thank you to all of our panelists. You guys did such an amazing job. We learned so much today.
It was great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So,
thank you all. Yes, and please feel free to share this link with friends and family who couldn't make it today. We hope we can continue to bring resources and panelists like this in the future. So thank you all again. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. All right.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Likewise.
Bye.